All right, so I think we can start the talk series already. Can you hear me clearly? Kindly please press the like button if you can hear me. All right. So good day, everyone. I'm Sophia Joy Quiliope, a consultant from Eco Sustainability, and I'm warmly welcoming you to our talk series entitled Mandatory Sustainability Reporting in the Philippines: What It Means for You. So next slides, please. Okay. So we'll be talking about three objectives and topics for this talk. So first, we'll be dwelling into why mandatory sustainability reporting matters. So here we're going to be gaining a clear understanding of sustainability reporting and how the ISSB sets global standards for it. We'll also be talking ISSB and its Philippine adoption, particularly the PFRS S1 and S2, and gain a clear overview of the Philippines adoption through the PFRS S1 and S2. So we'll be covering timeline, regulations, sectors, and transition reliefs. And lastly, we will be tackling about how companies can prepare now for the PFRS S1 and S2 compliance. So we'll be learning practical steps companies can take, including strengthening your governance, improving your data systems, conducting materiality assessments, and preparing your GHG report and assurance. All right. So, yeah. So, just a bit about eco-sustainability. So, eco-sustainability, we help companies to kickstart their transformation journey towards sustainability. So, we are headquartered in Singapore with team across Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Philippines. So, you'll be able to meet some of our consultant as well in the upcoming sessions of our bi-weekly free talks. So what we do, so we take pride in our expertise in different ISO standards, particularly the ISO 14064 for greenhouse gas reporting, the ISO 14068 for the carbon neutrality, and the ISO 14067 for product carbon footprint. So these are standards that are very helpful if you want to doing your sustainability report and aligning them with the standards that there is. We also give advice on organization on how they can reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and also calculate and verify carbon credit projects and even conduct technical and non-technical trainings for various stakeholders. We are also active in research and contribute policy recommendations and actionable strategies to the global standards. So how do we contribute to these standards? So we know that there are, as we know, there are global standard setters. So these are the ISSB, the SASB, and the GHG protocol. And there are the users, which could mean the preparers, the auditors, the regulators, and you, the companies. But there's a unique bunch of people in between who are the contributors. So that is us. So we organize over every comma, every full stop in the standards to provide technical commentary to the standard setters. So given this, I believe that you are really in the right session since you'll be learning from people who are not just users of the standards, but also actively developing it. Yeah. Okay, so before we start, just a few housekeeping rules. So this session will be recorded. So if there's a topic that you have missed, you can go back to it. And also, please kindly put your microphone on mute so we could minimize the background noise. And if you got some questions, you can drop it in the chat box. Our team will respond to it or will cover it during the Q&A session. And remember, there's no such thing as a silly question. If there's something that's really bothering you or really curious about, ask away. I believe that this talk should be a safe space for us to learn from one another. So yeah, right. So let's start our talk. So now I'll be handing over the slides to Maria, who will be talking about why mandatory sustainability reporting matters.
Actually, I believe it's Geraldine. I'll pass it over to Geraldine.
Well, thank you, Maria. Thank you, Sophia. Good evening, everyone. My name is Geraldine Nan. I'm a consultant at EcoSustainability. Why does mandatory sustainability reporting matter? Let's start with what sustainability reporting really is. What is sustainability reporting? Sustainability reporting is the public disclosure of a company's impacts, risks, and opportunities to help stakeholders make informed decisions based on the company's sustainability and long-term value. The Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission will implement mandatory sustainability reporting, beginning with publicly listed companies and large non-listed entities starting the fiscal year 2026. Reporting, which will start in 2027, will be based on Philippine Financial Reporting Standards S1 and S2, which are local adaptations of the International Sustainability Standards Board or ISSB standards. Philippine companies that directly or indirectly export to the European Union should also take note of the European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism or CBAM, the mandatory reporting of emissions, which will be fully implemented in 2026. Um, well, just okay. This slide probably feels a bit overwhelming, and that was exactly the experience for many companies. There were so many frameworks, guidelines, and ratings: GRI, SASB, TCFD, CDP, and even local stock exchange requirements, and none of them were fully aligned. The International Sustainability Standards Board, or ISSB, published its first standards, the International Financial Reporting Standards, or IFRS, S1 and S2, in June 2023, so it's fairly recent. The first global standards for investor-focused sustainability reporting. What is ISSB? The International Sustainability Standards Board, or ISSB, was created under the International Financial Reporting Standards, or IFRS, Foundation at COP26 to bring the same discipline to sustainability reporting that IFRS brings to financial reporting. ISSB was built based on the work of market-led investor-focused reporting initiatives, including the Climate Disclosure Standards Board, or CDSB, the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, or TCFD, and industry-based Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, SASB standards. They all convened to produce the IFRS. For IFRS S1, the General Sustainability Disclosures, we look at how sustainability-related issues impact the company's financial performance or prospects. In IFRS S2, the climate-related disclosures is used alongside IFRS S1. IFRS S2 requires industry-specific disclosures built on SASB standards. So as of June 2025, jurisdictions representing over half of global GDP have either adopted ISSB or are actively moving toward alignment. Now let's see what this means for the Philippines. I now give the floor to Maria.
Thanks, Geraldine. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I see a couple of people who's with us that may not be from the Philippines. If you can just maybe like raise your hand in the icon if you're not from the Philippines. Just want to know, get um like a pulse of who's in the room. Okay, Ms. Risha. And in the chat too, please, I'd be curious where you guys are from. If you can just add your countries, where you're calling from. Okay, great. So this talk is mainly tailored to the Philippines context, but I believe this is also applicable to your country, your respective countries as well. ISSB is being adopted across many countries. I believe India is also one of them, Cambodia, across Southeast Asia, actually. So while this topic may be focused in the Philippines, maybe there are also similarities in the context from, from with the countries where you're coming from. Okay. All right. So before we talk about the ISSB adoption, it's important to understand what companies in the Philippines are actually using right now for sustainability reporting. And this might be the same for other countries as well. So at the moment, the official system that's in place is the Sustainability Reporting Guidelines for publicly listed companies. And this system uses a comply or explain approach. That means companies must disclose information. Specific disclosure isn't applicable, or if the data isn't available, they can explain why. So it's based solely on the GRI, but it's not fully aligned with any international framework. And because of that, we see a lot of companies using a mix of voluntary framework alongside the SEC sustainability reporting template. And the most common ones that are used by companies are GRI, TCFD, SASB, and sometimes integrated reporting. And this is really the key issue because the current system does not provide the level of structure, detail, or comparability that investors are now looking for. So it lacks consistent metrics, it lacks climate-specific disclosure, and there is no or very limited link to financial performance. And as a result, sustainability reporting in the Philippines and probably in other countries as well, in your countries, tends to vary a lot from company to company. So this is why ISSB was created or was developed, and are now being adopted across multiple countries. So in the Philippines, sustainability reporting committee, together with the Financial and Sustainability Reporting Standards Council, has already laid out a national roadmap for a new sustainability reporting system. And this roadmap formally endorses IFRS S1 and S2, and recommends adopting them locally as PFRS S1 and S2. So the Philippines is still in that transition phase towards full ISSB alignment. So PFRS S1 and S2 are still in exposure drafts and are not yet mandatory, but we're essentially in the preparatory stage. The roadmap sets that direction, but the final standards and regulatory requirements are still in the process of being completed. And maybe that's the case for your countries as well. So what this really shows is momentum. The roadmap signals the Philippines is moving towards a more structured and internationally aligned sustainability reporting system. So now this brings us to why the Philippines is aligning with the ISSB, and I'm sure these are the same reasons for why your countries are aligning with the ISSB as well. So first is really global comparability. So Philippine companies can now speak the same data language as global markets, making it easier to benchmark, collaborate, and compete internationally. It will also boost investor confidence. So when sustainability information is reliable and consistent, investors can better assess risks and opportunities. That clarity builds trust, and trust attracts capital. Third reason is market readiness. So more and more international markets, lenders, and global supply chains will be requiring ISSB aligned sustainability disclosures. So aligning early puts Philippines companies ahead of these expectations. Fourth is climate risk transparency. So Philippines is one of the world's most climate vulnerable countries, along with many other countries in Southeast Asia. Hence, the country really needs clear, decision useful information about climate risk. And ISSB alignment supports that with better planning, stronger resilience strategies, and smarter long-term decision making by private companies. So this isn't just about adapting a new standard. It's really about positioning Philippines businesses and the Philippine economy towards climate change or climate shaped future with clarity, credibility, and confidence. So now let's take a closer look at the two standards that we're adapting, and I believe your respective countries will be adapting these two. What are the requirements? What's the general structure and application? So just full disclosure, there is actually no difference between the IFRS standards and our local versions of it, the PFRS S1 and S2. The Philippines adapted them exactly as it was issued, so the technical content is the same. The only change is the label, the timeline of implementation, of course, the enforcement, and the rules and regulations around it. Geraldine already discussed earlier the difference between what IFRS S1 and S2 are, but to remind everyone, basically S1 is the general requirements for disclosure. So you can think of this as the umbrella standard where it covers all sustainability related risks and opportunities that could influence a company's enterprise value, that will will provide useful information for better decision making by investors and other stakeholders. And PFRS S2 is much more specific, as the name suggests. It's focusing on how climate risks and opportunities affect company and financial performance. So together, these two standards are meant to give investors and stakeholders a clearer, more consistent picture of how sustainability and climate factors shape a company's financial performance and long-term value. So whether we're talking about S1 and S2, both standards follow the same internationally recognized disclosure framework. And this framework is built around 4 core components. And understanding these really helps make sense of how the standards work in practice. So the first component is governance. So this is all about who in the organization is responsible for overseeing sustainability issues. So are these matters discussed at the board level? Is management involved in tracking climate or sustainability risks? So governance tells the users or the investors and stakeholders that the company isn't just reporting, it's actually managing the issues with accountability. Next component is strategy. So this component answers the question, how do sustainability risks and opportunities affect the business model and long-term strategy? So strategy connects sustainability directly to enterprise value, so not just to compliance. The third component is risk management. Here, companies explain how they identify, assess, and manage sustainability or related risks. Do they have systems for monitoring these risks? Are these processes integrated into their overall risk management approach? So this section shows whether a company is reactive or proactive in addressing any risk or potential issues. And finally, metrics and targets. So this is where companies show the numbers, how they measure progress, what goals they're working towards. It includes things like performance indicators, targets, any metrics that's tied to material sustainability issues. So another important piece for both PFRS S1 and S2 is the materiality assessment. So obviously, this is really at the heart of any standards because not everything needs to be reported, only what is truly essential. So under these two standards, information is considered material or important if it could influence the decisions of investors and other stakeholders. So, companies are expected to do a couple of things. First is to identify their sustainability related risks and opportunities, assess which of those issues are actually material or important, um, and disclose only what is material, only report what is important. And finally, companies need to document their material methodology. So this is crucial for assurance and regulatory review. So regulators and auditors need to see how the company determines what is material, what was included, what was excluded, and why. Another important part of implementing these standards is understanding the role of industry-specific guidance, particularly SASB. So because PFRS is fully aligned with the ISSB and ISSB itself has integrated SASB into their framework, Philippine companies are now encouraged to use SASB industry metrics when preparing their sustainability disclosure. So why does SASB matter? Why is it important? Well, first, SASB identifies financially material sustainability issues by industry. So this is incredibly useful because what's material for a bank or what's important for a bank is not going to be the same as what's material for a mining company or a food manufacturer. So SASB gives companies a clear and structured way to pinpoint which topics truly affects enterprise value in their sector. And it also helps companies avoid irrelevant disclosures, right? And third, SASB supports comparability. So when companies in the same industry report using the same metrics, investors can finally compare apples to apples as opposed to apples and oranges. So this makes the data more useful and gives Philippine companies greater credibility in the global market. So under S2, companies are required to disclose three major climate-related categories. So one is physical risks. So these are the direct impacts of climate change on operational assets. Operations and assets. So, Philippines is very prone to typhoons, floods, sea level rise, and I'm sure in your respective countries as well. So those things need to be reported. Are there physical risk? Transition risks. So these come from the shift towards a more low carbon economy. So Philippines has a ambitious goal to transition to low carbon economy. So any regulations that are related to that might affect costs, competitiveness, and long-term strategy. Any technology changes, market changes as customer prefer greener products. So those things need to be reported. Third, any climate-related opportunities. So climate disclosure isn't only about risk. Companies also can report on what the opportunities are. So any innovations or energy efficiency improvements that saves costs, access to green finance, renewable energy investments. Those things need to be reported as well. So another key part of S2 is the expectation that companies clearly explain how climate issues are being governed and managed at the highest levels of the organization. So companies must describe, board oversight of climate issues. What are the management responsibility? Which teams or executives handle climate-related issues? How climate factors influence investment, capital allocation, and strategy. So this level of disclosure matters because investors today want more than just a list of risks. They actually want to understand what is the company actually doing about these climate-related risks. So S2 also requires to disclose climate-related metrics and targets that's relevant to the sector. These aren't just generic key performance indicators, they're very sector specific. And a major part of this is greenhouse gas emissions. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3. But basically, Scope 1 are the direct emissions from company-owned operations. Scope 2 are from electricity. And Scope 3 is for indirect emissions across the value chain. So basically, investors need metrics that they can track over time to compare performance, assess ambitions or targets, and evaluate whether companies are actually moving towards their stated goals. Another component of S2 as well, there's a lot of important things for S2 is scenario analysis. So this is essentially a way for companies to stress test their strategies against different possible climate futures. So companies need to analyze how their business would perform under multiple climate scenarios, such as, if the global temperature reaches 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2 degrees Celsius, or if we're still in a high emission pathway, what would be the risks and opportunities there? So by looking at these different pathways, companies can identify where their business is vulnerable, where opportunities might emerge, and where there might be strategic blind spots. Now, we'll talk about like how this is implemented in the Philippines. So who is mandated to report, what's the timeline, and what's the regulatory oversight? And this might be similar to your countries as well. So the standards will be applicable to broad sets of organizations and companies that have significant economic impact in the country. So the roadmap covers all publicly listed companies. So these are the companies that with the greatest market visibility and investor exposure. Also, it will cover large non-listed entities. So these are big companies that may not be publicly listed, but still have substantial economic influence. And then it will also cover government corporations classified as commercial public sector entities. So they operate commercially, so they face the same or similar sustainability and climate-related risks as the other private companies. So the Philippines is taking a tiered approach, and this is the same across other countries that's adopting ISSB. So this is done so that companies have time to prepare, build capacities, and strengthen their systems. So in the Philippines, Tier 1 is for large publicly listed companies and universal and commercial banks. These are companies with a market capitalization above 50 billion pesos, and they will be the first to adopt the standards, and they will be mandated to report in 2026, so a month from now. And then assurance will be required 2 years after that. Tier 2 are for mid-cap publicly listed companies, so between 3 billion to 50 billion pesos. They will be mandated to report in 2027. And then lastly, small caps, publicly listed companies and large non-listed companies mandated to report in 2028. So the entire system is being phased gradually, which will give them time to build internal processes, strengthen their data systems, and align with the new reporting requirements. So the key regulators, we have the standard setting and professional oversight. So we have the Philippine Sustainability Reporting Committee, the FSRSC, and then the Board of Accountancy. These are the technical experts. But the regulators, the sector regulators are the SEC, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Insurance Commission, and Commission on Audit. They will be overseeing the implementation. So finally, let's talk about what happens after companies begin reporting, specifically, what are the transition provisions, assurance requirements, and enforcement. So to help companies adjust, the proposed Philippine roadmap includes a key transition relief. So, Scope 3 is the biggest greenhouse gas emission and actually the most complicated one to collect data and analyze and assess. So, this will have a 3-year reporting relief period. So, it's not going to be mandatory during the first year, second year, or third year. To give time for companies to set up their system. Um, and then for assurance, after 2 years of mandatory reporting, companies will move to limited assurance. So this means that an external reviewer will verify whether the disclosures are credible and sufficiently supported. And then for enforcement, this will really begin when the SEC issues the final implementing circular or regulations around this. And we can expect government-focused supervisions, ensuring proper oversight structures are in place. We can also expect reviews of sustainability reports and also potential sanctions or penalties for non-compliance or incomplete reporting. So the message is clear. Sustainability reporting is not voluntary anymore, and it's not just a best practice. It's becoming a regulated part of corporate reporting, not just in the Philippines, but across Southeast Asia and many other countries. So I want to end my session by emphasizing the connection between sustainability and financial outcomes. So as you know, or you might not know, Philippines have had two major typhoons just last month, and it didn't just affect people in communities. It cost billions of pesos in damage across key industries. So that's how vulnerable we are as a country, and that's how powerful climate events are in shaping financial outcomes today and in the future. So this is why sustainability reporting isn't just about compliance anymore or marketing strategy or public relations. It's really part of our financial reality. And we need to make that connection between sustainability and financial outcomes. All right, I'll hand it over to Pia to talk about what can companies do now to prepare for this transition.
All right. So now that we know the rationale behind the adoption of ISSB in the Philippines, the next question is what companies should do now. So I believe that this actions is also applicable to your countries. I'll be also giving examples from big companies that you can actually replicate as well. So yeah. So I believe that for many companies, next slide, please. Yeah. So I believe for many companies, I believe you can all relate that the hardest part is just knowing where to start. So here's in this slide shows a simple roadmap to help you in your sustainability reporting journey. So think of SR as an ongoing cycle. It's an iterative process. You really don't need a 100-page report on day one, but you have to start with what you already have, then build and improve to it over time. And remember, SR is a journey. It's about progress and not perfection. Each cycle helps you gain clearer insight on what you want to achieve in the long term and create stronger business value. But before we start the actual reporting process, next slide, please. So we have to take in mind these three golden rules. So first, start with what you already have. Don't overthink it. Your electricity bill, your HR records, your fuel receipts, and even your vendor info are enough information to begin. Second, don't aim for perfection in year one. I don't think there's such a company that's have it perfect on year one. So your first report will have gaps, and that's normal. The goal is progress and not perfection. And lastly, sustainability is a team effort. So know who you would want to include in your journey. It could be your finance, your HR, your operations, your procurement, Everyone should play a part. And the earlier you involve these people, the smoother it gets along the journey. So keeping these three rules in mind sets you up for a much more manageable and realistic reporting journey. So for step one, so we have to understand first our business context. So you have to know your company size, your operations, your stakeholders, and your key impacts to the environment. So this sets the foundation for a meaningful reporting. So it means that maybe a stationary shop may focus on waste and electricity use, while a logistic firm would look at fuel consumption and fuel efficiency. So here in my slide is an example of a restaurant chain, McDonald's. So in this box, you can see here different entities that McDonald's should consider on its sustainability report. So it could be its supplier of raw ingredients, its food manufacturer, and restaurant operations, and even the third-party logistics that transport the food to the consumers. It could be Grab or Food Panda, whatever it may be. And also we have to consider also the entities that is outside the box or the external pressures, like your regulations, your customer expectations, or investor preferences. Next is once we have mapped out our boundaries and operations, we know the context of our business, we have to focus our efforts to those that really matters to us. And that's where the materiality comes in. So materiality, it's all about prioritizing. You really can't report on everything and you shouldn't. So you have to ask yourself first, which ESG topics could most impact my business and how it affects the reputation of my company, and what do customers, investors, or regulators care about the most. So here shows an example of a materiality assessment from Globe Telecom. So it's an IT telecommunication industry here in the Philippines. And this is part of their materiality assessment in their ESG report. So in this figure, you could see that as you go along the x-axis, the impact to Globe increases. And as you go along the y-axis, its influence to stakeholder also increases. So how can we pinpoint the material topics? So basically, this is the topics that is in the top right most of this figure. So it's cybersecurity and data privacy, stakeholder relations, corporate governance, and employee well-being. So these are actually the material topics for Globe, which is an IT industry. So next, um, so after you have prioritized your key topics, the next step is to see what's already in your hand. So look at your existing records. It could be your electricity bill, your fuel receipts, data from HR, the number of employees, the number of male and female, the proportion of your employee that is belonging into a certain ethnicity. So identifying what's already been tracked helps you pinpoint what has not been tracked or simply the gaps and plan to measure next. So in this example, we have an electricity bill and a fuel receipt. So for the electricity bill, we can directly identify our monthly electricity consumption, that is in kilowatt hours. And for the fuel receipt, the liters of fuel that we have purchased. So as you can see, yeah, these documents have the necessary sustainability information that you need. That is why it is very important that your company also has a robust data collection system. So to ensure that when doing your reporting, your data is more likely, complete, and accurate. All right, so after we have mapped out our current practices, the next step is to set our baseline or the starting point for tracking our progress. So you can start simple, maybe your monthly electricity bill, your water bill, or your fuel use. At this stage, don't stress about the accuracy. What matters most is consistency in collecting data. So here you can see an example of a supplier invoice for purchasing a raw material. So maybe it's coming from a manufacturing company, and then a flight ticket. So if your company is also heavy on the emissions of business travel, then you could also include your flight ticket. Yeah. All right. So once your baseline is in place, So the next thing to do is to build the internal capacity of your organization. So most often, a good sustainability team composed of your finance, your HR, your operations, some of marketing and legal. So finance, they're really very helpful in your sustainability reporting because they are the one who handles your data. HR, they are the one you would want to go into if you want to track your social indicators. Operations, they know really well what's happening on the ground. For legal, it's also good to have a legal because they are the people who will be aware of the current and upcoming regulations that your company might face. I would also want to emphasize that having good board oversight is also important to ensure that we get the buy-in from them to support us on any sustainability initiatives that we want to achieve. But I believe this is kind of complex already. For smaller companies, appointing a sustainability champion can make a big difference in keeping things coordinated and moving forward. I believe eventually your company will grow, and thus building the capacity of your employee early is really, really important. To add, we know that for the PFRS, we are adapting a tiered approach on sustainability reporting, and I believe in your country, it's also the same approach. So preparing your organization, your team on sustainability reporting, as well as for the third party assurance is also helpful to ensure better credibility for your organization in the long run. So with the right people in place, the next step is turning data into action. So start small. So maybe simply switching to LED lights or cutting down your waste is a good start already. And then work your way towards bigger goals like using renewable energy and redesigning your product to be more sustainable. A simple, clear timeline helps make sustainability real and not just a buzzword, but is already been part of your everyday business operation. So here shows a simple roadmap from SM Malls. So if you're familiar with this mall, it's really a big mall here in the Philippines. As you can see, SM, they started with one of their branches in SM North, EDSA. So they built it in 1985, built it to become sustainable. But as they progresses into their sustainability journey, they have also replicated this into their other branches. In fact, they already have a branch in China. So that is in SMCT Xiamen. So in 2013, they
No.
were able to install some solar panels in their
Mm.
buildings. So as you can see, they really started in just one branch, but have replicated it into their other branches, not just here in the country, but also abroad. All right. So once your roadmap is in motion, so next slide. So the next step is setting your clear targets to guide your progress. So start simple. So maybe a 5% cut in your electricity use or recycling 30% of your waste is really a big move already. I believe as your data becomes more consistent, you can widen your KPIs or your key performance indicators to include social and governance areas. I have here an example of for Nestle. So this is their sustainability report last 2023. I believe this is very comprehensive, but you don't have to be this detailed on the first year. So one of their goal is they aim to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 20% on 2025, 50% by 2030 from 2018 levels or the 2018 baseline. And also, they are on the road to net zero by 2050 at the latest. So what can you say about these goals? Their goal is actually quite smart. So smart means it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and timed out. So when you're actually drafting your target, keep in mind that it also should be smart. But I would also like to highlight that these sustainability reports are public documents and you can readily access them and be able to learn from other big companies on how they are already doing it. Yeah. And lastly, when your targets is in place, remember it's all about progress and not perfection. So even a simple first year report helps build awareness and data discipline. So each cycle, you'll be improving, your data gets sharper, your story is more clear, and your team is more invested in the journey. Many SMEs began with a one-page sustainability summary, and within 2 to 3 years, grew into full ISSB aligned disclosure. So here shows an example of Nestle's sustainability journey. So as you can see, they started on 2020 and their performance that time is also not perfect. So as you can see, they started with no carbon removal projects at hand, but 4 years after, they almost contracted 29.8 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Also, they started from 29K, only 29K metric tons of diverted waste in 2020, but on 2024, they have increased it to almost 114K metric tons in 2024. So as you can see, this is quite from something that's really small to very, very big improvements. Yeah. So bringing it all together, so reporting to value creation. So we could really see the value of doing a sustainability report. So once you have started this journey, it doesn't stop there. So SR isn't a one-time exercise. Remember that it grows and mature alongside your business. The key is to embed this sustainability into your strategy, your operations, and not treat it something just for compliance or a yearly checklist. The more you refine and improve, the stronger your resilience become and credibility as well. And here's the real upside. Companies that start early learn faster, attract better partners, and unlock more long-term value. In fact, according to a report by BCG on their 2025 Private Markets Report, sustainability initiatives is not a cost center. Companies directly credit them with driving around 4 to 7% uplift in their earnings. So yeah. So with that, I would like to end this session with giving you a question, a thought in your mind. Do you still think sustainability reporting is merely a compliance? Because if you still think it is, then I think you should think twice. So yeah. So yeah, that's all. I think it's time to open the floor if there's any questions or maybe one key takeaway that you'd like to share before we wrap up the session. Are there any questions? All right. So if there's no more questions for this one, so I would just like also to present to you, since we prepared all this useful contents for free. So
Hello.
we have even more to share with you if you join our full day paid training in January next year. So we have created our contents based on your needs and help you learn more about practical application simulation, real case scenario discussions, reality challenges in Southeast Asia, common misunderstandings, risks and opportunities, and the community group latest updates. So yeah, you will be learning a lot about updates in the ESG landscape. I believe Dr. Vicky Kumar is raising his hand.
Yeah, hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, at the moment I was trying to open my mic and I didn't see it's just like a technical error. Oh, by the way, good evening to everyone and a very wonderful session.
All right.
It's really great learning something new here. I have actually a very um, maybe a technical question. Okay, so since we are talking all about the sustainability reporting and everything, so I wanted to ask like there are the source where there is a direct emissions and indirect emissions, right, from the companies and all. So, how is the future for the calculation of the carbon emissions in the environment will be calculated? Whether for the direct emissions will be something different and indirect emissions will be different. So, how it going to make some differentiation or it still remains the same?
Yeah, I can take that on. It will still remain the same. We've uh generally they follow the greenhouse gas protocol. So it's the same calculation for like scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. It will not change with ISSB coming into the picture. But Keegan, I believe you turned on your camera, and I'm not sure if you want to add additional response to that.
No, I think you answered very well.
Okay. Additionally, how Philippines is going to calculate their carbon emission, like how much, if I say like the global figure like USD, how much USD per metric ton Philippines is going to charge?
I'm not
I'm
sure.
sorry, Dr. Vicky. Do you mean, are you referring to carbon tax?
Yes, 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 exactly.
Right. So, for now, there is no carbon tax yet, in the
Mm-hmm.
Philippines. But
Okay.
the countries like Singapore, they have already have a carbon tax for a couple of years. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe you're from Malaysia, so yeah, you might have heard Malaysia will have carbon tax very soon as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah, January
Indonesia also.
26th, they are planning
Mm,
to do some policies and everything. So I'm also working on it at the same time through my
mm,
company. But we are actually trying to get some facts and figures like how other countries have initiated. Just now, Sir has mentioned like Singapore, from the bottom line, from the very affordable price, and then hike up to something dollars and all. So I was just trying to get like Philippines is also in the loop, or they have not initiated this practice. Since the session is coming from the Philippines and it's about the sustainability reporting, so I thought maybe Philippines have some way forward for it.
Yes. So there are definitely plans for a carbon tax in the Philippines.
Mhm.
Generally, the sustainability reporting starts first. So then
Okay.
every company has a number, and then
Mm-hmm.
after that, assurance will kick in. Assurance basically audit. So think about the people who calculate. Somebody needs to audit it. So only after the audit space is settled properly, the infrastructure is there, only then carbon tax will come in. Yeah. Dr. Vicky, does that answer the question? Okay. Yeah, Sophia, back to you.
I think she left the chat. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. So moving forward, so this talk will be happening on January 31. It's a Monday. It's on from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Singaporean time. And the cost of this training. So next slide, please. Yeah. So the cost of this training is 250 Singaporean dollar. That's around 11,000 pesos. And you definitely should not miss this as the contents are well curated based on your company needs. But if you register by December 17, you can enjoy an early bird rate of 200 Singaporean dollar. That's around 9,000 pesos. And since you're here able to attend this free talk, we are offering a very limited offer. It's a buy one get one flash deal. So it's around 250 Singaporean dollars for today only. So what you have to do is you have to scan this QR code to register, and we will send you the payment details, and you have to pay within 24 hours. So hurry, because this is only limited to the first 8 participants. So um hurry now. please prepare your camera to scan this QR code because this is will be very, very limited. And I'm now counting down to 10 seconds. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, time's up. All right. So I hope you were able to, yeah, please scan this QR code because this is really a very limited offer. So yeah. So we can go to the next slide. So, all right. So yeah. So we have already completed a lot of trainings already for this series, but you have to stay tuned because we have more upcoming free talks for everyone. So we have completed Sustainability Reporting 101, Introduction to Carbon Accounting Reporting, and right now you're in this talk about sustainability mandatories in the Philippines. And in the next coming weeks, we'll also be having more talks. Yeah, so next slide, please. So on December 15, so we'll be talking about ESG regulatory landscape in Southeast Asia. And Maria will be talking about this one. And on next year, Geraldine will be talking about sustainability as a driver of business advantage. That's on January 12. And yours truly, so I'll be talking about sustainability reporting on the January 26. Also, others. So the paid training, it would be happening on January 31. But if you miss January 31, there's also one for March 13. And I hope you can really, really register for this one because I think it would really help you to prepare for your sustainability journey. On February 9th, so Darren Chu will be talking about Introduction to Carbon Accounting. And on February 23, Tang Lo will be talking about ESG regulatory landscape as well in the Southeast Asia. So yeah, so thank you very much for joining us today. So I hope to see you all again in the next session. So thank you, everyone.